An increasingly popular way to play Football Manager is via data and using the Moneyball approach. This means you assess your squad and attempt to sign players, judging players on the data instead of judging the players based on what attributes they have. So today will be dead simple. I'm going to show you how I Moneyball to build the squad and to sign players as well. Coming up, I'll show you how I set the game up, so detail levels, what sort of leagues to select, then what metrics and data to look for when you're assessing your squad position by position, and what to look for when you're trying to sign replacements for those positions. So first off, setting the game up. Now it all depends on what sort of save you're doing. I'm doing here a Premier League save, so I'm just using the top 5 European nations in terms of the leagues and their top leagues as well. The country that I'm in, England, I'm using the next level down as well, but this is where it gets different. If I was doing a lower league save, this would completely change. For example, if I'm doing a lower league save, I would want lower league players available to me in full detail. So say I'm doing a German lower league, Division 3 save in Germany. Then I've got all the leagues around me in Austria, Belgium, England, Italy, Portugal, etc. because I'm going to need players at that sort of level. I can't just get players in from Serie A, for example. But at the end of the day, it's up to you how much detail and how many players you want to be able to select from. Once you've decided that, you come to your home screen, and don't forget the most important part, the question that I get asked in every video, no matter how many times I go over it. You will need the Musterman skin. There it is, links in the description. And by the way, the ultimate guide to tell you how to do all this is the Musterman himself, so check out his YouTube channel. I'm just showing you the way I do it. He's probably doing it a far better way. So what I do is I start off unemployed. So the start of the game there, 24th of July 2023, I have no job. Then simply holiday for 1 full season. So I'm going to set my holiday till the end of the season, and I go to usually somewhere around mid to late May. The reason we do this is because this will allow the game to collect all the data from the players as they play the season. If you start straight away, there's going to be no data, so you are pretty stuck. So then you come back a year later, so it's the 31st of May 2024. I don't have a job yet. You're going to add yourself into your chosen club next. And now when you go to your squad screen and click on any player, you'll see you have the full data for his performance that season. And that's also the same for potential transfer targets. When you go to your scouting screen now and click on a player, you'll see you've got data for those players available to you to judge if they're going to be right for your team or not. So I guess the most important part, and the bit that causes most people maybe a bit of confusion, is how do you judge the players? What do you look for specifically? Now, initially there's 2 things to look at when you first get to a player. It's the data hub section there, so you've got his pizza chart, and then a bit lower down, which sometimes I forget to do because I look so into the data, is his ability levels. Now if you press this button here, the attribute key, it brings up the key of the levels. So yellow means excellent, so his attributes will be somewhere in the range of 16 to 20. You can see he's got that for flair and off the ball. Good is 11 to 15. Average, the darker red, 6 to 10. Then you've got deep red of low. But that's the easy bit, you probably knew that. What we're looking at really is what to look for on his data chart. So what I'm going to do, this section will be position by position order, and we'll just work through it dead slowly, dead chill, and then hopefully you can get to grips with it. But as a caveat, it all will depend on how you want your team to play. For example, if you've got a really attacking wing back, maybe a complete wing back on attack, the data points you're going to look for are going to be different to if you're looking for a normal fullback on support and you want him to be a bit more defensive. But we'll go through that as we get to each position. So we'll start off with goalkeeper. This is Vicario at Tottenham. Dead simple. They don't have as many points as outfield players, so it doesn't take you as long to judge. Goals conceded, so that's basically how many goals he's conceded per match. If it's under 1, that's good because he's conceding less than a goal a game. Expected goals prevented is 0.22. That could be higher as a guide. The higher up to the edge of the circle, that means the better the result. This is where the player role that you want your player to play comes into play. If you want him to be a sweeper keeper, you might want to have a little closer eye on the things down here. Passes completed, possession lost, and possession won, because they're the things that the sweeper keeper will excel in. Possession won because he comes running out and sweeping up. Possession lost and passes completed, how good he is on the ball. If you're not concerned about that and you're playing him just as a keeper, pay more attention to the higher sections up here. And don't forget, you can go in even more detail by going to your player's player performance report and checking how he's performed in terms of the data hub. For example, if I went to his advanced goalkeeping, his save percentage, in conjunction with his expected goals prevented, you can see he's way up there in the top 5, so all looking good. When we go to fullbacks, there's a few things you need to consider. What position, what role do you want him to play? For example, Pedro Porro, if I wanted to play him as an attacking fullback, I'd be looking for expected assists, dribbles, perhaps progressive passes. I'd be less concerned about possession 1 and tackles 1 because I'm using him as more of an attacking fullback. He looks well suited to a complete wingback role, for example, but a more defensive role, perhaps like an inverted fullback, it's not great. If you're looking for a more defensive based player, you'd be looking at possession 1, tackles 1, and potentially pressures attempted as well. Centre backs I find one of the easier ones to look for. If you're looking for a good central defender, what I'm looking for is possession lost, possession 1. Those to be both high. You don't want your defender to be losing the ball back there, and winning the ball back is pretty self-explanatory. Headers 1 ratio to be high is also pretty optimal. Those are the basics, but if you fancy using him as a ball playing defender, then I'd start looking at dribbles, progressive passes, and passes completed as well. As we move into central midfielders, this really does drill down into what you want from your midfielder. Bentancur has been playing as the more defensive based midfielder, so I'm going to look for something completely different to what I would look for a more attacking midfielder. So he's going to be holding this position down here in the pivot, rarely deviating from it. Therefore, a lot like the defenders, I want him to be high in terms of possession lost and possession 1 under this metric. Tackles 1 as well, passes completed, and progressive passes, so he's moving the ball forward when he gets it. What I'm not concerned about is expected assists, non-penalty expected goals, or shots. The final thing I'll mention is pressures attempted. This all depends on how your team play. If you're a gegenpress classic team, you want that to be pretty high because you're going to have players pressing all the time. Bentancur in my team was sitting back as an anchor, holding his position, so I didn't want him leaving his position. So that's basically what he's got there. Pretty good defensive midfield performance. For my more aggressive central midfielder, I'm looking for something slightly different. Basically those ones that you disregarded last time, we want to be quite high this time. Expected assists, non-penalty expected goals, and shots. You're actually asking more from this player because you still want the other metrics to be high, such as possession lost and possession 1, but you're looking for a little bit more attacking output as well. So if I was having a defensive midfielder with a volante, I would want the volante to be coming up a bit higher in terms of goals. However, if I'm going for a double pivot, maybe a defensive midfielder and a deep lying playmaker, then Sarr's probably had the perfect season because he's applying assists, but he's also doing defensive work as well. It all depends on the roles you want them to play. Attacking midfield, I'll probably split into 2 categories. Attacking midfielders and playmakers and wingers. When it comes to attacking midfielders, I'm looking for expected assists over everything else. Non-penalty expected goals is also a handy bonus. With both types of player, you've got to remember that your possession lost might look quite high, but it's because they're taking riskier passes. This is also where I'd consult this table and player overview. For attacking midfielders, so your playmakers, I'll be looking for key passes or key passes per 90 minutes. Your other type of attacking midfielder is your more winger based, such as Brennan Johnson here. You see his dribbles are higher than Kulusevski's were because he's playing mostly on the right hand side. So for that type of player, you want high dribbles and a high level of expected assists. If it's a winger, you might come to this screen and look for crosses attempted per 90 minutes or cross completion. In both roles, you want them to be ranked quite highly in terms of chances created. Alongside the centre backs, I think striker's the easiest one I'm looking for because it's pretty simple what I want from them. Namely goals. So I want a high level of goals per game here, a high level of non-penalty expected goals as well, and shots, so I know they're getting shots away. Optional extras may include expected assists if you're going to play them as a deep line forward, and pressures attempted if you go to play them perhaps as a pressing forward. So hopefully you can see how your choice of player role will determine what the main factors you're looking for in that data hub. Now the other thing to think about, which I often forget myself, is actually look at these ability levels and don't forget the key, because you will get some players ranking highly in the data hub there, but it depends what level they're at. If they're at Division 3, for example, and they're kicking ass in terms of data, then you come down to their ability and they've all got low and averages, they're not going to do well in the top level. And that brings us nicely on to the next bit of recruitment and what you look for when you're looking to recruit a certain position and role. So player search. Now a lot of this is going to be common sense. What type of player do you want? What they're doing in your team. If I start with striker and I just want an out and out goal scorer, I'm literally going to start the search by just looking for goals per 90 minutes. Now depending on the level that you set this at is the amount of players that are going to come up. If I look for an ambitious goal a game, for example, you do get a lot of players come up, but the best tip I've got from Musterman is to add in minutes. There it is, minutes. I set it to 1,000. Musterman recommends at least 900, which equates to about 10 full matches, which gives you a better idea of the type of player you're going to get. And as you can see, there's only 3 players here in this entire setup that are getting a goal a match. And that's where you can potentially find some gems. If you're looking for more of a creative player as well as a goal scorer, you could include assists per 90 minutes as well. Drop this down to something more reasonable, maybe at 0.40, and then you're going to get a raft of players to choose from. Now once I see I've got loads of players, there's 330 players there, and now know I can get a little bit greedier. So let's have a look for 0.7 for example, and the list is instantly filtered down to 33 players. Now I can have a good look. Now there's a lot of different values there as well. And this is where you've got to be careful, remember? This guy on theory looks great. He scored 32 times in 41 matches. I've never heard of him. And as we scroll down, you can see he's actually not that good. For the level he's playing at, he's great. But we're a top level Premier League team, so he's not going to cut the mustard. And that way you'll find better, more realistic targets to suit your level. So I'm going to look for a centre-back now, and if you're struggling in terms of what base level to set for something like possession loss per 90 minutes, refer back to your league. You can see by Mickey van der Ven, the centre-back, his possession loss of 3.38 is one of the best in the entire league. So if you want someone to rival him, you're going to be looking around that area. That's when you set it to at most, and then you can drop this down to 10 and drop it down to 4, just like that. So for centre-backs, I've gone for headers 1, possession lost, and possession 1, and I've got these figures from my best centre-back. And we have got a raft of players to look through. But if, like me, you find 147 players a bit too many to go through, you can obviously get greedy and just change things up. So I could up this level of headers 1 ratio to 80%, for example, and you can instantly see there's only 12 players available now. So you can get as greedy as you like. But overall, when searching for players, I don't like to add too many in. For the defensive midfielder, I'd probably focus on 1 or 2, such as possession 1, and maybe progressive passes. And then when you find the players, you can then decide if maybe you need a bit more. For example, I might need better headers 1 in that position, so I can go back to the list and perhaps find a more suitable player. For attacking fullbacks, depends what type of fullback you want. Pedro Porro is more of a passer, creator than a dribbler, so for that reason he's got progressive passes per 90 minutes to rival him. Expected assists at 0.10. If you're looking more for like a Denzel Dumfries style wingback, I sub progressive passes for dribbles made per 90 minutes. The best way to do it is to simplify things and just think about the player you're looking for. If I'm looking for a target forward, for example, I've got here headers 1 ratio 50% along with the expected goals, and then just see what comes up and try and filter it as you go. There are so many roles in this game to go through, but just dumb it down. If it's a deep line playmaker, think about his pass completion, his expected assists, the key things you look for. If there's a particular player role you're unsure of, just ask in the comments and I'll do my best to reply with what I'd look for. Now my last big tip, and it's probably the biggest tip of them all. Once you play a season, drop a save at the end of the season, because you're going to need to build your shortlists at the end of that season. Once it clicks over into a new season, all these beautiful data statistics here, they will just vanish, gone in the wind, and you'll have no idea on what you're trying to buy. If you've built your shortlist already like we have here, at least I know then that these players are good to go when we've got our budget for next season, and any of them would be pretty decent. If you want to go really hardcore, you can obviously make a note on the player and call him choice 1, choice 2, choice 3. That's up to you and how deep you want to go into it. For me, once I've got my shortlist built like that, I have it in my mind, or old school pen and paper, which players, which rankings of player I'll go for first, and so on and so forth. So in essence, that is me trying to make what seems like a really complicated, data-driven way to play as simple as I can. If you have any questions, bang it in the comments, and I, or one of the great viewers, will do our best to answer your queries.